What happens when Africa's richest man sits right next to your president and starts describing corruption right to his face?
The interest is not to develop Africa. The interest is to develop themselves.
Aliko Dangote did not just speak about Africa's problems, he exposed them. And sitting right there was one William Samoei Ruto.
And you are funding something totally that is irrelevant.
It was a moment where William Samoei Ruto was exposed live on stage in front of the whole Africa.
Every day we are saying potential for what?
And the worst part is that most people outside Kenya did not even notice this. But Kenyans present, or even Kenyans who were watching, they knew exactly who Dangote was actually talking about. Let's talk about it. If you love this kind of content, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. Now let's get to the video.
Also, allow me to invite on stage Alhaji Aliko Dangote, Chairman and CEO of Dangote Group.
Yesterday in Nairobi, there was a high-level event, the Africa We Build Summit. And in that room, there was the Africa's richest man, the president of Uganda, the president of Kenya, and top business leaders and policymakers. The goal was simple: to discuss Africa's development.
The discussion is really about a more regional integrated approach to investment and infrastructure.
But what actually happened was something very different, because every major topic that was discussed ended up exposing one thing: the failure and the contradictions of Kenya's leadership under William Samoei Ruto. Let us break it down, step by step.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
The first question was actually very simple. Why has it taken this long for Africa to develop? And the first to answer was actually Aliko Dangote. He did not sugarcoat it. He said that African governments have failed, that they have not supported local investors, that they frustrate African entrepreneurs, and that they look outside instead of building from within. Now, pause, because this is not just a theory. This is personal for Dangote. Dangote himself, he tried to invest in Kenya to build one of the biggest cement factories in East and Central Africa.
Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, made his intentions to invest in the lucrative Kenyan cement industry known, and now the government is offering assurance.
We now, as a government and as a people, are persuaded beyond doubt that there is local capacity in Africa to be able to harness our own resources.
Do you know what happened? Bribes from every level. The president, the ministers, the officials. It was a system designed to extract money.
Aliko Dangote registered 2 companies in Kenya planning to produce cement in Nairobi and Mombasa in 2017. The companies where Dangote was to own 90% with 10% owned by some local shareholders were Dangote Cement Kenya Limited, which was focused on cement production, and Dangote Quarries Kenya Limited, which would deal with limestone mining. While the time for Kenyan factories was ripe, Dangote was unable to start the companies due to corruption demands.
He got frustrated and he left. That factory was built elsewhere.
In Ethiopia, Zambia, Senegal, Niger, Mali, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nepal.
And that one decision costed Kenya jobs, industrial growth, and economic power. So when Aliko said that African governments are the problem, Kenyans knew exactly who he was talking about.
What would you say, President Museveni?
Then came Uganda's president. His response was actually full of excuses that we did not know before, that we now understand, that now we value local industry.
It would have been better if we, because like some of the other people, like the Chinese, the people like Lee Kuan Yew, they saw it earlier.
Fine. Then came William Ruto. And that is where things started falling apart, because he said, outsiders cannot develop Africa. We must develop it ourselves.
I think there is a realization by all of us that the solution to the challenges and problems we have is not out there. It is right with us.
Sounds powerful, right? But here is the problem.
Now, Kenya and Italy have signed 8 agreements, including grants for environmental conservation and security sector training.
Just this week, President William Ruto was actually in Italy, begging for money.
Specifically to thank your government, Madam Prime Minister, for the grants extended to us.
Let that sink in. At home, he says we must develop ourselves. But when abroad, he says, please fund us. Meanwhile, billions are being stolen daily inside Kenya.
Every day we wake up and we hear, oh, this number of billion shillings has disappeared through corruption here. This number of billion shillings has disappeared through corruption there.
So the question becomes very simple. How do you beg for development while enabling theft at your own home? That contradiction is something that everyone in that room could actually feel.
And by the way, we are discussing a refinery in Tanzania.
Then came the refinery discussion. Dangote announced plans to build a major oil refinery in Tanzania, Tanga to be specific.
Even now, I can give commitment to the two presidents that were here. If they will support the refinery, we'll build the identical one that we have in Nigeria, 650,000 barrels.
This is supposed to serve the whole of East Africa. It's a huge opportunity. Then Ruto jumped in and said,
that refinery is going to take on board the oil from DRC, the oil from Kenya, the oil from South Sudan, the oil from Uganda, and we will just need to build a short pipeline from Tanga to Mombasa, and the finished product will use the pipeline that we already jointly own with Uganda.
Wait, what? You own what? Because the last time I checked, the Kenya Pipeline Company was no longer controlled by the government. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, Kenya Pipeline Company was removed from state-owned corporations.
Ameuza. Kwanza leo ndo amepeana funguo kabisa na kila kitu. Kenya Pipeline imeenda kwa wa Uganda.
So we now have a president who is misrepresenting ownership on a global stage in front of investors, heads of state, business leaders. That is not just embarrassing. That is actually dangerous.
What are the policy commitments that you need? You say you're already in discussion. What is it that you need?
Then came the most brutal moment. Dangote said, I don't like seeing Africans go out there to beg.
Some of us were really tired of seeing our continent going out there to be begging for anything.
That one landed. Because everyone in that room knows who he was talking about. He wasn't talking about Museveni. Museveni does not take foreign begging tours. He was simply talking to William Ruto, the president with the most flights.
Ruto has taken 5 trillion minimum. 5 trillion plus. So I'm asking our viewers, pinpoint to me the projects which are worth 5 trillion Kenya shillings to justify why that 5 trillion debt should be in our debt register and we should pay for it.
And yet, he sat there, nodding, agreeing, as if he wasn't the one who was being described.
I must really thank President of Uganda for taking this bold move.
Then Museveni spoke again, and this time he was talking about raw materials. He said Uganda does not export raw materials. Everything must be processed locally. Even gave a story of how some people tried to export uranium.
A Canadian company came and said, I want to take the uranium. So where are you taking it? To abroad. But I have had a rumor. What are you going to do with the uranium abroad? To generate electricity. But I have had a rumor that there are some human beings here. It's not confirmed, but I have had a rumor that there are some human beings here who need electricity. Why don't you start with those? The man disappeared. They never came back.
Now that is policy. That is strategy. That is leadership. Then Ruto, unprompted, jumps in. He calls out Joho.
I'm cognizant of time. We don't have enough time. President Ruto, yes.
I'm happy that my Minister for Minerals is here, Hassan Joho. You know, I hope you have heard the
I see more plans.
We are not exporting anything raw going forward.
But we all know that is lies. The truth is, Kenya exports crude oil it imports refined fuel. It loses value, it loses jobs. And Dangote explained it perfectly.
Which means when you export raw materials, you are exporting jobs. And when you import, you are importing poverty. Because you are creating jobs out there, not here in the continent.
That line alone completely dismantled Kenya's economic model and exposed the hypocrisy. Because while Ruto was speaking policy, his government is actually doing the exact opposite.
In August 2019, Kenya exported 200,000 barrels of oil via Mombasa port after transporting it via road from Turkana County under the Kenyan government Early Oil Pilot Scheme launched in June 2018. The scheme involved transportation of 2,000 barrels of oil daily from Turkana to Mombasa using trucks. The 200,000 barrels was sold to ChemChina, a Chinese company, at a cost of 12 billion Kenyan shillings.
So let us be honest. This wasn't just about one speech. This was about a pattern. Investors blocked by corruption, resources exported cheaply, debt increasing, leaders begging abroad, contradiction at every level. And when Dangote described leaders who block progress, leaders who chase bribes, and leaders who fail their own countries, he did not need to name anyone because the description fit perfectly.
Mimi najua Kenya hii, it cannot afford another 5 years of William Ruto. It cannot afford another year of William Ruto.
So, to the outside world, this was just another summit. But to Kenyans, this was an expose. Not loud, not dramatic, but clear. Because when your policies contradict your speeches, your actions betray your words, and your peers call it out indirectly, then the truth becomes impossible to hide. And yesterday, in Nairobi, in front of the whole of Africa, the truth was seen.
Especially, President Ruto.
Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think that Dangote was purposely talking to one William Ruto, or am I simply reading too much into this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and do not forget to subscribe.